Hi friends, it's Belinda here from BMakingJoy, and welcome to my channel. Today is Tuesday, February 21st, and this episode of What Brings Me Joy will be posted available for viewing tomorrow on WIP Wednesday. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, I'm so glad you came back. This channel is where I come to you every second week to share you some yarny goodness, and you might learn a little bit about my life. In this episode, I have technically 4 finished objects to show you. Lots of progress on a couple of other WIPs, a new yarn, and a really good excuse for why I cast on more. So let's get started. My first finished object to show you is the one I'm wearing. I mean, yes, the sweater was already done months ago, but I finally finished the belt. If you watched my year-end review, you might remember this. The belt was my car project, and with my children now all adults, there isn't very much opportunity for me to be sitting waiting in the car. So I finally brought it inside, took it down to my treadmill, and worked on it on the treadmill. So, yeah, treadmill knitting. I had fallen out of that when my cough got bad. But I'm glad to be back into it. But I find that I need the distraction of my knitting and the TV to keep me motivated to stay on the treadmill. I started teaching myself treadmill knitting back in late summer, early fall. I started out very slow. Now I've worked up to about 3 miles per hour. I think that's going to be my max. Yeah. When I'm knitting, I need a very small, simple project for the treadmill. So, after I finished my belt, I gathered some cotton and a large needle and started making dishcloths on the treadmill. So in the course of 3 sessions, I finished 2 dishcloths, a regular square, just plain garter stitch, and a corner to corner. Now I used to do corner to corner dishcloths 30 years ago, so I think I remembered how to do it, except it seems to be a little out of shape. I think at the top it started to stretch hanging off the needles. I also think I need a smaller needle because this is a very loose fabric. Fine for a face cloth, but I'm going to have to go down in needle size or 2 for my dishcloths because a denser fabric will have better scrubbing ability. So there's 2 more finished objects. No, they're not finished. I have the darn in my ends. Oh no. Why was I calling them finished? Weaving in those ends. Those pesky ends. Anyway, this cardigan was my own design. I called it the HayTime Cardigan. I released it last year, so it's available on my Ravelry page. So I'll link to that below. Now, what project shall we show you next? The Snow Patrol sweater. Let me go fetch it. So I finished somebody else's UFO. I gave you a lot of details in the last episode about this project. It was given to me by a sister in our congregation. She cleaned out her mother's house, and it was a project that her mother had started more than a decade ago. So I finished it. I will walk you through the process of finishing it. I'll insert a picture here. This is what it looked like when I received it. And you can tell that the knitter's tension had changed and mistakes were happening as her health failed. So I frogged it back to the good stuff. Then I had to decide what needles to use, what size to match her gauge. And by the way, I have tutorials on this channel of how to get gauge, how to adjust your needle size if you're not getting gauge. I'll link those videos below. Then I had to count her stitches to confirm what size she was making. And I discovered that some of the pieces didn't have the armhole shaping finished. So I had to read through the entire pattern and fix those up and finish each piece before I started the yoke. And then, I'll tell you, I did not like this pattern because I hate seaming. It was all worked in pieces, as you can see, and seamed together. And even when joined for the yoke was still worked back and forth, which annoyed me. I tried to join it and make it circular in the round yoke, but the stitch counts wouldn't work. So it joins at one of the back shoulders. This one is where the pieces meet together to join. So I was able to line up the pattern, but there are extra stitches tucked into the seam, the selvage stitches, which in the round would have made the pattern not meet upright. And then my first attempt at the neck was too large. So I went back 2 more needle sizes for the neck. And now she's all seamed up. The ends are all tucked in. And she's ready for a bath. She needs a good bath and a shave because there's pilling. And I don't know if you can tell, but there is a difference in color between the yarn that was already knit up like 10 years ago and then the yarn off the ball. Maybe more on the back you can see the difference in color. So she needs a good bath. I'm still trying to debate whether I need to shave those pills off before I bathed it or after I bathed it. I think after. So she's going to have a good 2 hours soak in my wool wash in the sink. And then that one, by the next episode, should be done and off to somebody else. I'm going to give it back to her, and she said she's going to find a child in our congregation that hopefully it fits. It was intended to be a size 10, 11 child. It's a little bigger than that because her gauge was off from the pattern. But yeah, I'm sure we'll find somebody that will fit. I'm sure it will look beautiful once it has the bath. So my half and half triangle wrap pattern by Pearl Soho got a lot of attention the last 2 weeks. When I spoke to you last, that marker is where I was. So I had the rest of this triangle to complete. And when I got to that last wrap and turn, I got so excited thinking I was done with the lavender and ready to start the green. But no, you have to knit back across that row, resolving every wrap and turn stitch as you go, which means picking up that wrap and knitting it together with the stitch. And I was having a hard time with that because my wraps were too tight. But my daughter, my brilliant little daughter who doesn't knit, came up with an idea. She told me to use a second needle, a smaller needle, to pick up that wrap. And so that worked wonderfully. So I put on my reading glasses and sat down and did that whole row. Finished the purple. And then I decided I didn't want to be carrying around the entire cone anymore because it's starting to get too big for my bag. So I weighed the project at the point of finishing the purple. I weighed it, figured out I needed that much green yarn. So I wound off enough green yarn to finish the project. And then target the green. The green short rows are in the other direction. So every next row you're resolving that wrap and turn. So it was tedious for a while until I got to the point where my rows were longer. I didn't need a second needle for the wrap and turn to pick it up anymore because my wraps were not quite as tight, being only one row behind. But I still need to put on my reading glasses every time I get to that turnaround point. So now it's ready to just sit aside in my bag. It still lives in my waterproof bag. So I can grab it and go if we happen to be going anywhere, which I don't anticipate. And it's also at the end of the evening when I'm tired of thinking. It's a project I can pick up and do because I don't have to refer to a pattern. I don't have to think. And oh, do you like my little needle protectors? I just bought a whole package of these at Walmart. They're pink and purple. They didn't come in the jar. I put them in the jar. There are fist and there are open hands and there are a 2-finger peace sign. So that's fun. Anyway, the wrap, the half and half triangle wrap by Pearl Soho. I'm looking forward to finishing that before the middle of April, because I think it will be the perfect project to wear when I go on vacation. Hopefully we get to go to Hawaii in April. So that's that project. Last episode I told you that my plans for finish it February were to finish that Snow Patrol sweater and my daughter's hometown hoodie and my 2022 temperature scarf before the end of February. So let's update you on those. This is the hoodie. This is a pattern that I released last year called the Hometown Hoodie. And when I showed it to you last, I was partially finished the sleeve. And I'm using Karen Anniversary Cakes, this big giant ball of self-striping yarn, which meant I had to do a little bit of color management. So when I reached the end of the cuff, I had to unwind to come back to the right color to start my sleeve so it matched up at the armhole. Then when I reached the end of that sleeve, there's still a long way to go before I get back to this color for the other sleeve. So I started on the hood. So the stitches are picked up around the neck to do the hood. And I definitely will be finished the hood before I get even anywhere close to coming back to this right color for the sleeve. So it's a good thing I've got this huge mess. So this is the fourth hoodie that I've made. This one is in an acrylic. It's for my daughter. And I think it's going to be lovely. Now the temperature scarf. I did a blanket for 2020 and a blanket for 2021, and then decided to do temperature scarves instead of blankets for 2022 and onward. But let's see, I got all my notes done of what the temperatures and what the colors are for each day of the year. Got the figures off of AccuWeather.com or the weathernetwork.com, and there's several other sites you can use. When I spoke to you last, I was at February, the middle of February. Now I'm up to May 4th. I'm just knitting across for each date to come back and do the next row across. So I'm leaving the tassels, the tails, the fringes on each side. It's starting to roll in. I'm kind of liking that. So these yarns are deep, deep stash. Let me show you. Oh, I've forgotten how many colors there are in this. Deep, deep stash. I've been working at it since the 2020 blanket. So that will take a while to get done. But it hasn't made as much progress as I'd like because it lives in the TV room and my husband has been monopolizing the TV lately with shows that I want nothing to do with. So that's coming along anyway. I don't think it'll get done by the end of February, but we'll see. Now, the point of Finish It February was to finish up as many old projects as I could, but I did cast on something new. And I told you I was going to. I joined a knit along with my new friend from Pearl Passion. And we're doing the Love Notes sweater by Tin Can Knits. I'll link to that pattern below. And our cast on party was February 14th by Zoom. We had fun. And there it is. I originally cast on, there was a lot of back and forth deciding on what size I needed. I originally cast on for the size medium. The pattern suggests that you go for a 4-inch to 12-inch ease. I'm going to put this on over my head. I put it on an extra long needle so that I could do this for you. Extra long cords here. So the pattern suggests a ease of between 4 to 12 inches. And if you don't know, ease means the difference between your actual body measurements and the garment measurements. And I was thinking I didn't want it as baggy, so I cast on the medium, which would give me 5 inches of ease in the bust. And then I got along 8 or 9 rows and got to thinking I didn't check the other measurements in the pattern, the yoke depth and the sleeve circumference. Those numbers matter too. So I found out that at the medium, my sleeves would have been too tight. I was 1/2 inch negative on the sleeves. So I moved up, I ripped out, frogged, and started the large. So this is the large coming along. I just finished the lace pattern, ready to start the raglans. I'm enjoying that. It's a very fast knit because it's on 6mm needles. 6mm needles. The pattern calls for a DK weight yarn, but I managed to hit gauge with this worsted. It's a Lion Brand Pound of Love, but it's a very light, it's on the thinner side for a worsted yarn. So I managed to hit gauge, so away I went. I'm enjoying it. It's going to be a nice drapey fabric, but it's going to be warm because it's acrylic. So I think instead of the 3/4 length sleeves that the pattern calls for, I'm going to go with full length sleeves. And it's a crop pattern. I'm going to go longer. So that's the Love Note sweater pattern by Tin Can Knits, and I'm loving it. Now, if the math is correct, I'll have 9 inches of ease in the chest and 2 inches of ease in the arms. So that should be nice. And the yarn I'm using is from Stash, Lion Brand Pound of Love. Their yarn thicknesses seem to vary based on the colors. So this one worked out wonderfully for me. And I have 3 balls of this because purple is my favorite color. It's been a productive couple of weeks. I spent a lot of time working on my financials for the year end. Had an increase in pattern sales this year. Still not enough to cover expenses, but that's okay because I'm doing this for the joy it brings me, and hopefully it brings you joy too. And I did finish editing my Over the Rockies shawl. I'll insert a picture here for you. I finished editing it. I added a stitch chart to the pattern, and it's now off to a tech editor. So I'll let you know when I'm ready for test knitters. My first sample in this picture was done in a Lion Brand ice cream. DK weight, it's written for a DK weight on 5mm needles. And I'm going to do another sample in this yarn from Michaels. It's Michaels' own brand, Loops and Threads. This one is a Luxe Merino, which is a 55% superwash, 45% acrylic blend. So I'm going to make another Over the Rockies shawl in this, but I need to finish something else before I cast that on, because I cast on something else on Saturday, but I have a good reason for it. I was going to the hockey game with my husband, and the previous time that I had gone to a hockey game, I was wishing that I had some knitting with me, especially when the girl sitting beside me pulled out hers. So I was determined to bring some knitting with me this time. But all my projects were too big to take, so I had to cast on something new. I needed to find a simple project that I could knit without looking at it. So I cast on a sock. Put it in a baggie inside my purse. Now, I don't really know what pattern I'm following. I think it's the vanilla sock from the Crazy Sock Lady. And so I cast on 40 stitches in a DK weight yarn. I used 3.5mm needles because that was the smallest size I had in this new set that I wanted to try out. I'm using a Kobu yarn, cotton bamboo yarn, and I recognize that that's not going to be a good sock yarn, but I'm thinking this is more of a spa sock They're nice and soft to put on after your feet are all nice and clean and moisturized. Then you lay back and kick your feet up with a glass of wine. I think that's going to be lovely. So I cast on and knit about an inch before I left home, so that I would have enough of the pattern established that I could continue by feel. And I'm surprised at how much I got done during the game. I find I knit slowly while watching the play, and then quite fast in between the plays while they're playing that music. I'm glad I took it. Now the needles, it's a new set I bought from Walmart that I wanted to try. It's a set of interchangeable needles. The brand Love Knitting. I'd never heard of them before. They were at Walmart for $42. And I wanted a cheap set of interchangeable needles to take when I travel, because I'm always afraid of losing my Chiagus. So this kit, like I said, did I say $42? Yeah. It comes with 8 needle tips, size from the 3.5 millimeter that I was using up to 9 millimeter. It's got 2 cords, this one and the one I'm using, only 2 unfortunately. Then it's got 2 connectors so you can join the cords together, 2 locking pins. Sorry, the cat is scratching at my door. I'm going to go let him in a sec. And 4 end caps so that you can just leave your stitches on the cables. I'll tell you about them in a second. I'm going to let the cat in first. And here's some more of those cute hands I bought. Now the needles, I like them. I think they're pretty good value for money. They're metal, which is my favorite material for knitting. The join held together pretty well. I actually add a little rubber gripper to all my interchangeable sets to help me get that joined tightly. If anyone with a locking key tends to join pretty good. But I did struggle with this bend and this join. The stitches needed a push to get up over that bend. And there's like a little catch here. So that was unfortunate, but for $42, I again think it's a good value for money. They are not the best for doing magic loop. They work. I did fine, but this cable is thicker, much thicker. So it took a little maneuvering. It flings around. It works. And they don't swivel. But again, value for money for $42. I am quite happy with that set. And it will go into my suitcase when I travel from now on. Because I like to have the extra needles in case I need to change the needle size in the middle of a project. Or in case I decide to start a new project while I'm traveling. So that's, I can just throw in a coin purse full of my notions and stitch markers in there, and it's ready to go. So let's recap. Where am I at with my WIP count now? Last episode I had 11 works in progress. I finished the belt and the Snow Patrol sweater. I cast on and finished 2 dishcloths. I cast on the Love Note sweater and I cast on a sock. So I'm still at 11 UFOs or WIPs. WIPs being work in progress, UFOs being unfinished objects. I guess a work in progress would mean one that you're actually working on, and unfinished object would be one that you've put aside and it's not finished yet. That's my interpretation. Anyway, I have a new skein to show you, but first, some family fun to tell you about. I wanted to show you these. It's a mystery box, a monthly subscription that my youngest daughter subscribes to, and we have a lot of fun with these. The Deadbolt Mystery Society, and I'll link the website below, but I have no affiliation with them. I have no reason to show you this other than it's been bringing us a lot of joy, and I promise to share with you the things that bring me joy. So it's a monthly subscription. They take us on average 2 to 4 hours to complete one, the three of us together. And they're perfect for people who love mysteries and escape rooms. They're usually a murder theme. I'll warn you of that. But they, in the box, you have a description of the mystery and some clues. And then there are QR codes to scan. And as you solve one puzzle, it's the password to unlock more clues. So we did this one in 2 hours. My youngest daughter, her mind goes a mile a minute, and I sometimes have a hard time catching up with her, but I get so excited when I manage to solve a mystery. So that's been fun. We did one of these last week. We did this one last weekend. This weekend, our middle daughter came home for another dodgeball tournament. She lives in Edmonton, so she came to Calgary for a dodgeball tournament and stayed with us. She brought her cat with us, her cat Twyla. Twyla's been here 3 times now. My cat Nikolai still doesn't like her. He still keeps his distance from her. But I'm like the cat grandma that gives the cat, the baby, the thing that the mama doesn't want it to have. Each morning that she was here, Saturday and Sunday morning, I wake up to find both cats in my room. They're sitting a good 10 feet apart, waiting for me to get up. Mine leads me to the kitchen and hers follows me. So I feed them in their 2 separate bowls, and I give my cat wet food. But Kathy doesn't feed her cat wet food, but I do. So the 2 of them are eating in their separate bowls, a good 6 feet apart. And then when one cat finishes, I think my cat usually finishes first and leaves. Her cat, even though she still hasn't finished hers, goes over and steals the rest of Nikolai's food. And then later on, Nikolai comes back and steals the rest of her food. So funny. I enjoy that. What else was I going to say? She came up on Friday night, and apparently there was a really good Aurora Borealis show at the Northern Lights, or you might know them as the Polar Lights. She was telling us about it. She described it so well that I felt like I had seen it too. She said there was the greens and the kind of a bluish, and then there were reds. And she lives up in Edmonton. She's seen them a few times, but she said she's never seen the reds. So she was describing it so brilliantly, so beautiful. Didn't get any pictures, of course, because she was driving. She didn't leave Edmonton until like 10 o'clock Friday night. Now we're under a big thick blanket of snow, a snowstorm that started Sunday night. Just as she was leaving to go back to Edmonton, the storm started. So she called us on the phone so that we could keep her company while she drove through it. And around about Olds, about 100 kilometers out, is cleared up, and she started seeing these lights again. And yeah, I've only seen them once in the 25 years I've been here in Calgary. That they are gorgeous. They're beautiful. I bring this up because I think what nature can do is absolutely amazing. So, anyway, that was Sunday. My cough is doing much better, except for a little tickle in the throat today. I was doing better. I got to a few congregation meetings in person in the last couple of weeks. And then Sunday morning, I started getting sniffly again. Maybe because there was an extra cat in the house and I wasn't taking my antihistamine. But I do think there is some mold at the Saddle Dome as well. But anyway, other than that, my health is really good. Everybody's health is really good. We're doing quite well here. Our oldest daughter in Banff is coming down later this week to put her Christmas decorations back into her storage bin. She still celebrates Christmas. Had a party there for her and her roommates. Anyway, so I hope to get to spend some time with her. And yeah, like I said, everybody is doing good. So I promised to show you my new skein of yarn. As you might remember, I joined the subscription of the Color of the Month Club from Ancient Arts Yarns. So this month's colorway, I'll read you from their internet post what the color is all about. This month's color is called House of the Tragic Poet. And through it, we invite you to come with us to southern Italy and the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Pompeii. This colorway is available as full-size skeins of Socknado or Passion 8, and also as mini skeins. So I subscribe to the Socknado, which is a fingering weight. I think it's an 80% wool, 20% nylon. Yes, it's an 80-20. I think the other option is a DK weight Passion 8. Not sure. Anyhow, back to the reading. Pompeii was a wealthy town with a population of about 11,000, but it was buried under a thick layer of 4 to 6 meters or 13 to 20 feet of ash and debris when Mount Vesuvius erupted in the late autumn of 79 CE. The spread and devastating force of the eruption meant that the entire city, its population, their houses, markets, public buildings, everything was perfectly preserved under a thick layer of volcanic ash. Since its rediscovery in 1748, the entire area has revealed a fascinating amount of information about normal daily life in ancient Rome. Many homes of the wealthy inhabitants have been unearthed, and amongst them is the house of the tragic poet, which was discovered by archaeologist Antonio Bonucci in 1824. Although this is not the biggest nor most luxurious home to have been found, it's famous for the high quality of its elaborate mosaic floors and frescoes depicting Greek myths, such as those included in this post. The Instagram post has pictures, beautiful pictures of this revealing. So I will link to Ancient Art's website and their Instagram account in the show notes down below. So let's see, the house originally contained more than 20 painted and mosaic panels, 6 of which have been relocated to the National Archaeological Museum in Naples, Italy. These panels were selected for their relation to Homer's Iliad and were the inspiration behind the name of the house. The house of the tragic poet is also famous as the site of the oldest Beware of Dogs sign ever found. This black and white mosaic of a chained dog baring its teeth is on the entrance floor, and the inscription reads, Cave Canum? You don't need to understand Latin to get the message. If you look closely at this colorway, you'll find hints from all these frescoes and the mosaic. Oh, it's beautiful. You'd have to look at the pictures to understand the inspiration behind it. But it is gorgeous. There are any number of colors that I would pair this up with, like solid color. And they do put pairing suggestions on their website. Gorgeous. Anyway, that's I think all I have to share with you. If you've enjoyed this, please click the like button so that more people can be shown the video. And if you'd like to be notified when my next video comes online, which should be in 2 weeks, because my goal is every second Wednesday for WIP Wednesday, click the subscribe button, the notification bell, whatever. And happy knitting, happy stitching, happy baking, sewing, whatever you do, go find some joy. Thank you.